All right. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag
of the
of the
United
United
States
States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic
for
for
which it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
with
liberty
liberty and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all. Thank you very much. Ms. Campos, will you please take the roll call?
Yes. Trustee Bradall,
Here.
Trustee Brocchini,
Here.
Trustee Doggett,
Here.
Trustee Levin,
Here.
Trustee Villalobos.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The district digitally records the audio and video portion of the meetings. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. Speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and the agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board, your microphone will be unmuted, and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After you've spoken, your microphone will be muted. Item 6, report out on closed session topics. The board met in closed session regarding conference with labor negotiator, agency negotiator, and conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, and public employee performance evaluation. The board voted 5-0 to provide guidance to settle the anticipated litigation ahead of any litigation. Item 7, approval of the minutes of July 15th, 2020. Are there any questions regarding the minutes of July 15th, 2020? We are going to start with Trustee Bradall.
No questions.
Trustee Brocchini.
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos.
No questions.
And Trustee Doggett.
No questions.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 15th, 2020?
I'll motion to approve the minutes from July 15th, 2020.
Do I have a second? Okay, thank you. Ms. Campos, will you please take the vote?
Yes. Trustee Bradall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of July 21st, 2020. Are there any questions regarding the minutes of July 21st, 2020? Trustee Bradall,
No questions.
Trustee Brocchini,
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos,
No questions.
and Trustee Doggett.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. I will motion to approve the minutes of July 21st, 2020. Do I have a second?
I'll second them.
Ms. Campos, will you please take the vote?
Yes. Trustee Bradall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 9, approval of the agenda and consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed in the regular order of business following approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the approval of the agenda and consent agenda? Trustee Bradall?
Sorry.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's all right. You can go first, Trustee Villalobos.
I just have a comment and it's on 11. Hold on, let me just look through my notes really quick.
Sure.
11G, which is
The Racial Equity Committee structure?
yeah, there's just one word in there that I don't agree with, and it would be structure. I would like that change to update if that is feasible. If not, I'm not sure what to do, just pull it because, well, anyways, that's just my request.
Fair request. I'm going to defer to Superintendent Olson for what we need to do here. Should we pull this item 11G, racial equity committee structure, or can we rename it on the fly?
We can pull it, and I don't think that's a problem to rename it at that request. I think that's the thought were the next steps to get started on the committee. So we can call it an update if we'd like.
Okay.
I have a question though on the, I was just looking on the consent agenda, is making sure that the, just making sure that the equity policy is in the board meeting, not on the consent agenda. I'm just checking.
That's correct. It is in the district business.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to call one by one. It's a bit tedious. So I would just invite my colleagues on the board to ask any questions that they might have regarding the approval of the agenda and consent agenda.
No questions. No questions.
No question.
No questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda? Well,
I'll motion to approve
I
the
will-
consent agenda.
Thank you. I will second that. Ms. Campos, will you please take the roll call vote?
Yes, trustee Bردall,
Yes.
trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
trustee Doggett,
Yes.
trustee Levin,
Yes.
trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 10, communications. Speakers wishing to address the board on agenda items or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your mic is muted and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. We are going to start item 10A, LSEA.
Good evening. Can you hear me? I always have to
Yes.
double check. Okay. LSCA is looking forward to negotiations on Monday. We continue to keep a positive work dynamic with the district leadership, and we are very thankful for that. Over the past few weeks, LSCA has provided lots of input in our interactions and conversations with the leaders. We hope that on Monday, the district meets us at the table for a fruitful and solution-based discussion with some solid answers we can deliver to our union members and to the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have item 10B, CSEA.
Perfect.
Oh, I'm sorry. Superintendent Olson?
Nope, I just wanted to make sure you saw CSEA.
No.
I'm here.
Good. Hi, Jerry.
Yeah. How you doing? Okay. I wrote some notes here. I don't know how sensible they are, but start off with, I think this has been one different year. Never knew what was coming around the corner. Such a busy summer. To date, we have all survived a summer of busy folks without much time for relaxing. Looks as though we are going to move beyond the planning stage for our students and start with the distance learning soon. I would like to personally thank all who have worked so diligently and brought us to this point. Lots of work brought us here and remains to be done. Administration, teachers, and classifieds have shown what a team effort can accomplish. Jobs well done by all. We too are in our negotiations at this time, and I'm hoping that the team effort that we have will continue on. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you very much. So item 10C, people wishing to address the board. And we have Kristen Fong.
Kristen
Hi.
Fong is for the 11A return to school.
I think I can
Oh.
just do it on 10C. That's fine. I didn't see that. I missed that part.
No, that's okay. You can talk to that period. of
Awesome.
time.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a question. The people wishing to address the board, I thought that was only for items that are not on the agenda.
Correct. So that's why we asked Ms. Fong to hold off till 11A.
Got it. I can totally do that. That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, my apologies for calling you up early there, but we do have Nicole Ortega.
Hi, I guess mine might need to be tabled until that time too. I have a question for the board that's not on the agenda.
Oh,
But if it's
Okay.
not on the agenda, you should ask now.
yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I wasn't sure. My question is, with the return to work dates changing for some of our classified employees, how will that affect their accruing of vacation time in the last month of the school year?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sure that could probably be answered in the return to work, the return to school plan item later on. I am looking for anybody else. Kristen Fong, we will remember you when we get back to the return to school. Okay. And is there anybody else that wishes to address the board? Okay. Well, with no one answering, then I'm going to move on to 10D, correspondence. And this is Superintendent Olson, please.
Correspondence, I have none.
Okay. Then we're going to move on to 10E, Board Superintendent Communications. So who would like to start?
I could go ahead and start.
Okay.
So since the last meeting, I've attended a couple of the parent advisory team meetings, and they've been really great. I've been really happy to see such a large number of parents on those calls. In all my years, I don't think I've ever seen so much parent participation, so I'm really happy to see that. And I feel like there's a lot coming out of those meetings, so thanks for holding those. There was last night an ordinance passed by San Mateo County regarding masks and facial coverings. So I wanted to mention that. As of last night, it's a potential to get a fine up to $500 if you are out in public not wearing a mask. Of course, there would be a warning, smaller fines leading up to that, but the San Mateo County is definitely cracking down on the masks and facial coverings. I do want to just also reiterate that regarding facial coverings in the state of California, the current ordinance says that any child or any person that is over the age of 3 should be wearing masks out in public. And I'm definitely, on my days to try to get out of my house, I drive around town and I see that there are a lot of children that are not necessarily following that rule. But if you're outside of your own home and around people that you do not live with, you should be wearing facial coverings. So I want to make sure that's really clear to everybody. Also, regarding food, Second Harvest Food Bank is still giving away food over at Terra Nova High School on Tuesdays and Fridays, I believe, from 1 to 3. They'll be doing that through August. So I know that's still a need for families, especially as funding runs out and things start to shift. So I want to make sure families are aware of that. And that's my report for today.
Thank you.
I can go. Besides the weekly county meetings and the county superintendent meetings, the main thing was a candidate question and answer evening with Dr. Olson and myself, and we've had I think about 7 or 8.
I would say 10.
10 attendees. Okay. And that went on for about an hour, hour and a half. So it was nice to have that much interest in the upcoming positions in the election.
Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to let you guys know that I finished my paperwork to be a candidate for school board. So I'm running. So it's official as of today.
Great.
Thank you. Laverne?
So I've just been doing a lot of stalking around on other school districts. So I attended 4 other school districts meetings. I just wanted to get a gauge of the boards, the parents, the staff, the teachers, and how things were going in other areas. And I can just say I am so proud that our board is moving forward with certain items for the distance learning and just voting on it. I saw one meeting where the board tabled their reopening plan, and I was left like, oh my gosh. So I did that. And then also I did the CSBA webinar yesterday on small districts with big challenges. I also did, last month I joined the National Education Association, American Indian, Alaska Native Caucus. And I did one of their webinars, and the webinar was so appropriate. Let me just get the official name, was Foundations for Teaching and Learning About Native Americans in the Classroom. And it was done, facilitated by the National Museum of the American Indian. And I'll share that link with Heather, and maybe she can pass it on. There was just one part of it that was excellent, where you can actually scroll down to a different tribe, and then you can scroll down again if you want to learn about A, B, or C. Of course, they don't have every tribe in there. My tribe wasn't in there because there's over 600 tribes, but it did have a good amount. And so I'll just send that link to Heather. The other thing is I just had a discussion with one PTO co-president. I got the feeling that the PTOs are kind of nervous. Some of them, I won't say all of them. And that one PTO co-president is discouraging the learning pods that may be happening in our district just because of the safety issues. And so I feel like we need to listen to our PTO presidents and our whole PTO leadership, because they have a gauge on what's going on with the parents as well. And then we received, I just lost it. Okay, we received a letter regarding special education, but I'll just wait until that comes into the agenda. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So I have one thing to report, and that I don't think it's been brought up. Attended the special education meet and greet last Thursday, I believe it was. And so Julie and staff did a great job at presenting there. And I learned a lot, and we're going to hear about our special education staffing later on, and all good news. Sorry for the and that's all that I have to report. So let's see, we are down to item 11, district goals. The district values the goals provided in our Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP, and Strategic Plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. One or more goals are listed in the description of each board agenda item. Details for each of those can be accessed on our agenda online public page or by visiting the district website, www.pacificasd.org, under District Administration, Board of Trustees. Item 11A, return to school plan. Superintendent Olson.
Great. So we're going to present, and then let's not forget the public comment. Kristen Fong is lined up for that. So this is probably the third return to work plan, although we've been talking about this all summer, and we've been able to fill in a few of the pieces that are missing, but just know that it is still developing as we go along. I cannot thank the folks that I work with enough. We meet regularly with principals. We have been meeting with them twice a week. Our district office staff, Nicole Ortega, who is involved in the enrollment. This is an enrollment year like none that we've ever experienced, and hopefully not one that we're going to experience again in this way. So I just want to thank the leaders of this district, LSEA and CSEA, for their partnership. This is hard. This is, as I've said, the hardest thing I have ever done in my 29 years as an educator. And people can't even conceptualize of making changes so quickly and for really important reasons. And when we think about the safety of both our students, their family, and our staff, this is serious business. And so we appreciate the spirit of collaboration that is going on. So will we keep moving along? So, so tonight this is going to be a little bit longer presentation and pretty detail oriented, but we're going to continue to add to our knowledge about the instructional design for our return to school. We're going to discuss our next steps, and we're going to review, and I would ask you to adopt the Pacifica's 2020-2021 plan, knowing that 3 weeks from now, we're going to report to you with other information. I think this will be an ongoing conversation. But I think that there's enough that we can move forward with an adoption of the plan. So what we know now is that now the San Mateo County is on the state's monitoring list, and that has big implications for our return to school. Middle schools and high schools are not allowed to open in counties that are on monitoring. There are elementary waivers for elementary schools, but that this will probably prolong the amount of time that we are fully in distance learning. When San Mateo County is removed from the state's monitoring list, there are 14, we are not allowed to open until 14 days after that. And there are some serious requirements that our district needs to follow at that point. So when we wrote this last week, we had 19% of our families interested in distance learning full-time. It is just now at about 20%. And we do know that Jefferson Union High School District is beginning the year in full distance learning in the fall semester. So there are some changes. So this was the data of the number of confirmed cases on July 10th, 3,846 with 81 cases in Pacifica. Will you keep going, please? And so 3 weeks later, just is that we're up to 5,469, and Pacifica has 109 cases. So as you can see, the numbers are continuing to escalate. I do want to bring us back to the priorities in our return to school plan, because I think the same is true whether we are in person or in distance learning. And so clearly, our highest priority is the safety of our students, their families, and our staff, and that was behind our very difficult decision to move all to distance learning. To the degree that we can do safely, we want to have students on campus as much as possible, but that the front end of that is to the degree we can do it safely. We will focus on students who experience the largest gap in learning during distance learning. This includes students who receive special education services, are English learners, foster youth, or socioeconomically disadvantaged. And we want to prioritize social emotional health of our students, their families, and our staff. So one of the questions that came up last time and is often asked is, when will we return to school? And like I said, being on the monitoring list will probably place us in distance learning for a longer than we had initially anticipated. And the decision will be based on public health data and our ability to meet the requirements for safety testing and the availability of contact tracing. One of the requirements is that staff that works with students in person with students would be tested every 2 months. And so if that's probably a little bit less than 300 staff members every 2 months. So I believe that the county office is working on multiple contracts to be able to do that. And they're also looking at some other options so that it's not something that that necessarily has to be provided by the district. So I talked about some of the requirements. The districts can apply for waivers to open elementary schools, and I think we're going to see private schools do that. And then once schools are, I talked about the testing already. And then, so what makes sense is we have to wait for the go-ahead from the state, but because we have board meetings every 3 weeks, 6 weeks seems to be about the right cycle of when there could possibly be data. People will need to prepare to return to school, but it seems like every 6 weeks will be that amount. I've been asked, do we think that we would just say for the first semester that we're going to be in distance learning because Jefferson has decided that? And I think one of the ways that we differ from Jefferson is I believe that for most students, most high school students, distance learning is an easier avenue for learning than from students that are in the TK to 2 range. I think that we know from our experience that TK to 2 is a very, very challenging age to do distance learning. And so what I would say is let's continue to look at the data and see. We may well be for the first semester, but I'm not ready to write that one off quite yet. I want to talk very quickly about the schedule during the hybrid phase. It seems a little less pertinent now, but people are asking, and I want to kind of move forward with that decision. So an ABAB would be one group comes on Monday, another group comes on Tuesday. Wednesday would be some planning, collaboration, staff meetings, but really the thing that's important in that end is some opportunity for cleaning. And then the other model is the AABB. So one group would come on Monday and Tuesday, another group would come on Thursday and Friday. There were variations, and some families have suggested things like maybe Friday could be the deep cleaning day, but for most, this was the one that was settled on in terms of our work groups. Next slide. So when put out to parents, the real question was, do we go AABB like Jefferson, or do we go AABB? There were also a fair number of people that either supported the choice that the staff felt was the best or was flexible, it didn't matter. And then not included in this number are the 16 responses in the Spanish survey, which was 50% for the AABB schedule. Of the just 397 respondents also have a student at Jefferson Union High School District. 228 of them responded it was important that Pacifica School District and Jefferson Union attend school on the same days. And 129 responded that it wasn't important. Jefferson will be in distance learning for the fall semester. More staff, by about 30 staff members, favored the AABB schedule. And when you really ask, it's for the opportunity for the deep cleaning to happen on Wednesday. It was really a safety factor when asked. And so we're going to recommend that the Pacifica School District adopt the AABB schedule for when we go into the hybrid model. Let's keep going, Will. You can keep going. Okay, so so this was as of Friday, but now I can report out is that we had over 330 respondents and 42 respondents in our Spanish survey. There were some duplicates, and part of it was I sent out a reminder asking people to fill it out, and I didn't remind them that it was a reminder, and so a few more people did that. So we're just digging through those duplicates, making sure that both of their responses match before we eliminate them. And if we're not clear, we're calling families. We're also looking for families that we haven't heard from, but I think we should have that data cleaned up. Just under 20% of students will be in the full distance learning. That's about 500 students. We were surprised by the increased interest in our homeschool program. We're very proud of that program, and so we're not surprised because of that, but that's a significant commitment from a family. And so there are just over 90 families that are interested in that. And with that, there's a need for increase in staffing. And so we are looking at how we can do that so that we can provide that to all of the families that are interested in that. And so now at this point, while we are cleaning up the data, we will be looking at configurations and staffing. So we'll be meeting with the principals of that have students in 6th through 8th grade on Friday, and then look at those class configurations, because the next step would also be looking at staffing. So on August 8th, Saturday, August 8th, is the deadline for staff members to submit any paperwork asking for medical interactive appointments that they might need accommodations that would provide distance learning full year. And then we will look at any transfer requests that we have in terms of staffing. I'll hand it over to Will for instruction and technology.
All right, thank you. So in support of distance learning 2.0, the first piece is getting connected, just as we had in the spring. And we're going to be following basically the same procedure in that we're going to identify the family and the students that need the Chromebooks and hotspots the most, and trying to get them out to them. We don't have that Chromebook order that we have put in for. We're going to get those Chromebooks sometimes in the late September or hopefully mid-September. But until that, we're going to be utilizing the Chromebooks that we do have and get them out to the family. We do have data on the families that have requested Chromebooks or have expressed that they need a Chromebook. So we do have, and we're going to be working with our school staffs in getting them out and making sure that we have them loaned out and catalog them so that we know where they're at. So that we're hoping to take place next week, between the week of this August 10th to the 14th. There will be probably more Chromebooks going out as the school year starts the week after. Hotspots, and I wrote this before we got new information, but we did get hotspots, but I think we got the wrong order. We got hotspots through San Mateo County, and I believe he sent us Bayshore's allotment. So we are working feverishly to get our allotment that we have. There has been a real increased amount of people who have requested hotspots, and many of them have requested a separate hotspot for each of their children in the house. So we're going to again have to go through that list and really figure out the ones that really need it first and get them out. But there is a bit of a delay on those hotspots. We're hoping that we can, in that first week of school, be able to start handing out hotspots to those who need it the most, and then eventually be able to fill in the rest as we move along. Professional development, we have a PD plan for our teachers and administrators. We're working with this group, the New Teachers Project, and they're going to be providing the 3 learning workshops. The first learning workshop is going to be with some teacher leaders and our administrators around planning learning, and then we're on the 17th and 18th, I believe. We're going to have workshops that are going to focus on accelerated learning for math, and another workshop on accelerated learning for English language arts, and that's where all teachers will be invited to those workshops. And that is just really our starting point. We're going to be continuing to provide professional development for teachers, specifically in the context of distance learning, as we're starting out in distance learning, and in providing them professional development around how do we work with students that have lost in-person time in the spring, how we move forward with that, and the new teachers project, it's right up their alley. It's what they do. So, and then the other part is we're going to be scheduling a technology tools training for staff and families. So it's not just going to be the staff that's going to be getting this professional development, but we're also going to be working with to train families in the use of any of the technologies that and the tools that the students are really are looking to use, that they have they have the opportunity to be trained in ones that they're unfamiliar with or need help with. And then we're also going to be doing some, and this will be eventually when we do move into a hybrid and we move back on campus, is the health and safety. And that's for those students when they're returning, when they do return to campus, there'll be professional development around that, so that we feel that they're safe and healthy to return to campus. All right, the teachers and school staff will spend the first few weeks of school primarily focused on connecting with families and building meaningful relationships with their students, and helping students develop relationships with each other by creating a community within the classroom and school-wide. Time will also be spent preparing the students for a distance learning environment, which will include introducing the learning of norms, procedures, schedules, and coming to classroom and school-wide agreements. Teachers will elevate the social needs of their students, understanding how COVID-19 pandemic continues to have an impact on the mental health of our students and families. Teachers will also use a variety of curriculum, activities, and lessons to engage in students in developing social skills, character development, emotion, vocabulary, and confidence. High quality distance learning is also a top priority of the governor and state legislator. And the recently passed Assembly Bill 77 outlines the expectations for distance learning models. Instruction minutes for distance learning have been defined by the state of California as time value of assignments as determined by district certificated staff. So it's time value equals synchronous direct instruction and independent work on assignments. And these instructional minutes here are the minimums that we have. So it's 180 for TK kindergarten, 230 for first through third, and 240 for fourth through eighth. And these are minimums that we're going to abide by. The other piece is, and this is all along the lines also of Assembly Bill 77, or following that guideline, is this idea of setting and communicating daily and weekly schedules. This is another big difference from distance learning 1.0 versus what we're going to be moving into distance learning 2.0. And the big piece here is the synchronous instruction, which is the direct instruction and learning activities that occur online at a scheduled time with live facilitation by a teacher or PSD staff. embedded in there is the designated EL time will be embedded into daily schedules, and integrated English language development time will be adapted into lessons to ensure that our EL students are accessing the content. Asynchronous instruction is independent learning and practice that has been assigned by a teacher or PSD staff member and may or may not occur online or at a scheduled time, but without direct facilitation of a supervision of a PSD staff member. So this is where with the independent asynchronous time, this will be this time where it'll be flexible, and it's intentionally flexible in that, you know, it may be able to be accommodated due to family schedules, meaning that you know, families can adjust that asynchronous time so that they can support their child in that work. Also included within these daily schedules is, you know, we're hoping that we have lunch breaks at defined times, as if they were in the brick and mortar at school, and then also student check-ins and office hours. And then the other piece that we're hoping to have included in these schedules is parent office hours, because we know that they're true partners in this distance learning experience. And in our content for instruction, so our main focus is on the standards. And part of our work with the TNTP and that professional development that the staff is getting is that we're going to be identifying focus standards that will be chosen not just by individual teachers, but it will be chosen by grade levels and across our school district. So so that we are identifying those standards, or those high leverage standards that are agreed upon to be addressed throughout. And that work with TNTP and that professional development will help us get to that area. And then we're also going to be using our adopted curriculum, the adopted that we do have for our English language arts, math, social science, and science. And that's going to be our primary source of instruction. Yes, there will be supplements to that instruction. There will be things that will be used to supplement it, but our main primary source will be our adopted curriculum, which all of them have online and what I would call like distance learning friendly resources. And then I'm going to hand it over to, I guess, Julie, right?
You got it.
Thank you, Will. Go ahead, next slide. Thanks. I'm excited to have a chance to speak with you tonight around special education and what that really means in terms of our next steps and our direction here. I want to just start by acknowledging what I believe Jerry shared earlier, and that was just the power of the teams that came together to do a lot of work this summer. And it certainly was an honor to be part of that team and learn from our staff, our classified certificated administrators who were immersed in so much of this in the spring. And so something we say often is, how can we learn from these bright spots? And that is something that other districts are doing as well. And I think this just gives us a great opportunity to look back and reflect. And I think of several stories that I had heard or came across where I think about our support providers to our students who are some of our most vulnerable in terms of the learning loss, and understand that those support providers were the lifeline for those students. And it's really good to look at what was it that they did? What made those connections meaningful? And how can we replicate that and ensure that all of our students are receiving that support? So it's really important. You're going to hear me talk a lot about communication and just utilizing that IEP team to really look in each individual student, and knowing that whatever platform the family has chosen for their child, that team is there to support them, whether they choose to be in the continuum model, to be on a distance learning model, or in the homeschool model. So it's really important that those teams are available to our families. We're excited to really start looking at our creative use of technology and leaning on the good work that happened this summer from our staff who received training to know how we can really maximize things like breakout rooms, speaking to the alignment of the scheduling that Will had just mentioned. How can we really create shared time where there's lunch breaks so that we can utilize things such as lunch bunches where students are getting that engagement. That is so critical for all of our students, and it's incredibly important for students who are working on socialization and feeling more and more isolated. So that's definitely a priority we heard from families, we've heard from teachers, and from students. It's important that social emotional learning is going to be a part of everything we do for our staff as well, understanding how many different demands are on their time, especially as we consider coming back onto campus and keeping their safety at the forefront of our thought. And again, that communication system, I want to share tonight just a little bit about what that's going to look like and how our families can stay engaged with us as a district, but also just with your own child's case manager. So when we start to think about the distance learning model for students that will be in that distance learning model for the full year, the IEP teams will be really working to develop that plan that's going to work for the individual student. And so those services that they will be receiving, depending on where they may be, if they are receiving any kind of Zoom sessions, but even just more than that, I think it's going to be important to think creatively about how we can support them. So for instance, supports might include things such as physical packets, physical art projects that students can do at home along with their teacher, but also utilizing things like teleconferencing, teleconsultation, and teletherapy. All those related services can be provided depending again on the child's IEP, but may include speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, adaptive PE, mental health counseling, and behavior support. And the team will work with the family to find the best mode that will be able to be communicative through the child. What is the most meaningful and way to maximize that engagement? Sorry, go ahead, Will. Thanks. So when we look at our families that are looking to be in the continuum learning model, again, that will begin as the distance learning model will, where they will be working mostly in the virtual realm. Understanding the safety of our students and staff is most important, and wanting to be to be monitoring that according to the direction of the board. And knowing that once we are able to safely bring back students, that is something we're very interested in doing, knowing how important that support will be for our students, and knowing that that in-person contact is critical once we're able to provide that safely. So we're going to look closely at how we can look at opportunities for them to receive those services, but also how inclusion will work. And I think this is something many of our families are curious about. I do know that the prioritizing of the schedule will be really critical. And on behalf of our special ed staff, I am excited to really enlist the support of our general ed teachers to really prioritize these schedules for our students that need that support most. One such example is that if a child is receiving, say, in RSP services, that they're able to receive those services in as closely aligned to when that actual instruction is. So perhaps that RSP student is receiving that instruction support live virtually, but that they're able to see that support provider very closely to that time frame. And that's just going to create a lot of collaborative time. But I enlist the support of our gen ed teachers to really work closely with our special educators and give them that support that they need to provide the best for our students. Students that have support through paraeducators, again, those are ways that they'll be able to start receiving services in class as well as virtually before we're able to be on campus. So if we were to think about just some frequently asked questions that have come up, things such as how are those accommodations being made? And the most important thing, just example of what a child's IEP may look like is if that push-in service is available, it could be delivered during that synchronous instruction time. But then other services that are either individual or small group may be looked at in the asynchronous time. And so the services will continue to be delivered virtually, while others may be delivered on campus when safe to return. When we think about how do we really help with our students that have special needs, or excuse me, 504 plans. It's the same thing that we would really want to look to our case managers at each school site. You know, their whole goal is to be working with that family to really align that plan to support whatever model that family has chosen, whether that's the continuum model or the distance learning model. So teachers and service providers are going to work to develop that plan to make sure that that is meeting the child's need, and that might not just be a one conversation, and we may have to try that for a while. And I would invite families to come back together to work with their school's case provider to reevaluate and understand where things are at as we're monitoring that progress. That'll be important. So what happens next? Where do we go from here? I think our communication systems, it's our time together to communicate is it's never been more important. And I think the stakes are very high in terms of wanting to make sure that there is the learning regression does not continue. Will mentioned a bit about those content standards and really being able to focus on goals, particularly within their children's IEP, to really prioritize where that work needs to happen while we're in a distance learning model, and be eventually coming back to support those needs in person. I'm excited to explore options that other districts are using, and looking at how that will fit here in Pacifica, along with our staff and our families, to understand that perhaps there are concepts that we could start bringing back students slowly when safe to do so. And in the meantime, what virtual supports could we offer? How can we keep our kids connected? And I'll speak to that a little bit when we address the social emotional wellness, but keeping that engagement part is very critical. We're going to continue listening and asking. I've enjoyed hearing a lot of the stories of some of our special ed staff who, again, so successfully navigated those relationships where they were that provider, or they reconstituted their living room to make it look like a classroom. And the students so eagerly signed in every day to see that familiarity and to have that consistency. So there will be a huge focus on wellness in all that we do. It's not going to be something put off to the shelf to be taken down on, 30 minutes here and there, but rather everything that we do, because that is an incredible important part of the work that we have going forward for, again, our students and our staff, our families as well. So I'm excited to be offering what we're going to be calling weekly office hours at the district office, where it'll just be a time that families can drop in and wait in the breakout room. And I'm there to help troubleshoot or solve a problem, whether it be there's a connection issue with their Chromebook, or maybe they had reached out to a case manager and didn't have an answer back yet. I'm helped to just sort of facilitate those conversations to get families connected with staff and to get what they need. Same thing to staff. I'm excited to be available to them just on an ongoing basis. I also am looking forward to having some more weekly communications via email, and to have more opportunities to meet with families virtually, as we have been meeting again tomorrow night, hoping to see many families there tomorrow night as well, and to just continue to ask questions and get feedback from folks. We look forward to opening the year and introducing families to our new staff, and to be bringing them along as well, to make sure that they have that connection at the start of school. We're going to be working with a lot of our leadership team as well, and utilizing the good work that is being done by the experts in our district from our staff, and bringing on new members as well. So along those lines, I think it's important to note the work that goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about here related to special education, and that's just our mental health and our wellness as it relates to supporting all of our students. Excuse me. This work, this summer, again, I just am so honored by the work that I have been a part of with our team, the team of very dedicated teachers and administrators, counselors, staff, psychologists, along with leadership of Jen Gray and Christina Iverson, who've just done a tremendous work here to help us create resources, things that have already been put in place, but then ways we can even expand those structures that are in place. And I feel for a district our size, I'm incredibly proud of the wealth of knowledge that we have within mental health, and looking forward to capturing those that strength to carry us through this time right now. So you may have heard that the Mental Health Services Act grant with San Mateo County Office of Education, we are one of the recipients of that grant, which is tremendous. It allows us to bring in an SEL curriculum for all of our students, along with professional development for staff. So I had a chance today to sit in on a meeting with our own Molly Hendricks over at the county office, just to hear the different curriculums that are being offered. And I'll be working with our wellness staff team to take a look at that from a teacher's lens and from a psychologist lens and all the different lenses of folks that will be looking at that to make that right choice for our students. We also will be utilizing what's called the Atlas Grant app that will allow for students to have access in grades 6 through 8 to online support through a interactive support system where they're going to be getting counseling help, as well as different resources and tips on a daily level, in addition to teachers having access to their dashboard, which will allow for them to utilize various lessons. We are super proud of some kind of grassroots work that's been going on by a lot of our very talented teachers who've been creating what's called the Weekly Wellness Warehouse. And that is a chance for teachers to be sharing resources with one another, lesson plans. For instance, a lesson plan was just shared by a couple of teachers that did an outstanding job of creating together a campaign to the point that was shared earlier, the importance of wearing masks and how we can really empower our students to share, then carry that message. And what a great learning opportunity as we start the year. So teachers will have access to that, as that's important for them to be equipping those resources along with our curriculum as well. Staff have also been gathering for some support activities on an optional level each week to be guided through a circle that engages them in various questions. And then there's a team that's been in existence called the Social Emotional Wellness Team, and that is a team that is going to be partnering with schools or the at the site level to be just helping monitor our students. And we're going to be looking closely at things like engagement, attendance, finding ways that we can reach out to those families that aren't engaging. I think it's important that we're not waiting for those students to come to us, but that we are taking that aggressive action to go out and ask them and find ways that we can engage them. Again, the stakes are too high, and it's really critical that we are taking the time and initiative to be intentional about finding them. And just for your reference too, to kind of share what it looks like in terms of supports that are in existence, what you're looking at is a multi-tiered system of support. In particular, I want to just draw your attention to that tier 1 level. That really is ways that we are going to be addressing those supports to all students and staff. These are school and class-wide interventions that are aimed at prevention, including teaching positive behaviors and promoting social and emotional development. I also think this is a great way to engage our local community and parents and experts within our own community. I've come across that through our parent advisory group too, to be offering this to share with other families through various parent education nights. Beyond that, we have ways that we can engage with more targeted interventions, personalized small group short-term interventions at our tier 2 level when students aren't responding to that first level of intervention. And then even more specific than that is to really look at tier 3 interventions, which is intensive one-on-one strategies over extended periods of time. And that's, again, for when students aren't responding to those tier 1 or tier 2 systems of support. And so what is it that we do? I mentioned it earlier. It's part of all that we do. Wellness is part of all that we do. There was a day back when we would learn about computers. I know as a teacher, when I started off, you'd take your child to your class to the computer lab, you'd spend a few minutes there, you'd come back, and it was something that was set apart from the curriculum or set apart from everything we do. I liken that to our social emotional learning. It's embedded in all that we do. And it's incredibly important to pay attention to it with intention and specificity through curriculum, but it's also important to note that it's a part of things that teachers are doing, such as checking in with them on a daily best basis, having a nod to know that they're listening, know that they're heard, know that they're wanted, have our students have positive interactions and engagement, and understanding that our communication systems, we have to really vary the ways that we do that. Not everyone's going to be able to connect virtually through a computer screen. So how can we replicate that and look for other ways to make those connections meaningful? we're excited to just, as I mentioned, expand teams that are in existence and truly look to some of our community partners to be helping us, looking within Pacifica and even beyond, to help us really educate not only our staff but our students, but our families in addition. And one piece that I think is that I'll just kind of close with here is the importance of just knowing our wellness team has talked a lot about this, and it's something that I've heard mentioned at other board meetings too, is how do we keep that joy alive? How do we keep that joy in our kids' days? You think about when kids come home from school and they share those moments. How do we replicate those moments so that families are still sitting around dinner tables and you can still reflect on your day and find those fun, engaging moments where a child can say, this was really funny today, I want to tell you about what happened. And so our wellness team is looking at ways to creatively give teachers tools. And one thing there that we're looking at is an example. Some of our team members came up with this. This is pretty fun. I'm excited about this. I would encourage everyone to find this in their own life. Next slide, Will. We'll be giving families a joyful moment menu, which might just mean a moment where a teacher may say, okay, everybody, pause for a moment, take out your joyful moment menu, pick something on that menu and go. And that's just finding those ways that, again, kids are going to be drawn to more intrinsic, fun connections and find ways to still find that silliness, that happiness. I was definitely seeing that in the spring with the teachers at Ocean Shore, where I was noticing there being so many different fun, silly moments that they could infuse that joy and love of learning. And I think that's going to be critical to hang on to, because that's what's going to carry us back to when we can all come on campus and open our doors again. So we're excited to continue to build on that. Heather, is that you?
Superintendent Olson, you are, there you
I'm
go.
trying to unmute. There we go. So with just 2 weeks to go, there's plenty still to do, but I just need to say, everyone, is that we will be ready to start school, but we're not going to be done, right? The learning that needs to happen will need to happen throughout the year. Some of the planning that needs to happen will happen together or will happen throughout the year. So it's just an unusual year. We have teachers that it's August 1st, we need to start planning. And because this is such a different year, where we're all new teachers, including the superintendent, we're going to do this and we're going to figure this out together. So one of the things is continue to watch the local data on COVID-19. We're working on enrollment, class configurations, and staffing. We continue to do planning and professional development. The sites are looking at implementation and what that means for them, how to get the materials out, what the specific things are that will happen at their site. We've mentioned the parent advisory team. I would say that's a huge bright spot in this whole piece. Is in the pandemic, people's ability to be engaged. So right now we have almost 90 people. In the last couple of meetings, we've had close to 500 people. But the parent advisory groups, we get somewhere between 120 to 140. And even outside of those, parents are reaching out to me. Hey, I work at UCSF and we've got this great webinar, sign up. Or I work in the distance learning space. Let me share some professional development with you. Like, what a great, our parents are great resources. And what I would say about what we're getting from the parent advisory is that, such gratefulness of the work that our staff did last year, but also saying, and now we'd like to see these things. And it's not complaints. It's just said in the very most positive way, knowing what students need and what their students and families need. So really enjoy having that. We're continued collaboration and negotiations. We negotiate with LSEA on Monday and CSEA on the 18th. And that, in addition to the negotiations, we're also collaborating with them. Alexis, the director of HR, is meeting with employees or talking to them by phone or virtually around their concerns around returning to school and work. And then the official piece is the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan, or LCAP 2.0. If you notice, those letters make a LCAP, but we need to present those at the August 26th meeting. And then on the second meeting, we would adopt the plan on the 16th. Much of what you have seen here is going to be in that plan. The next step would be, we've done some significant stakeholder engagement with some of our return to school teams, our parent advisory, the group that we want to make sure that we get included in this, that we'd like some more voices, is around our district ELAC or our DLAC team. And Will's going to be working on that in the next couple of weeks. You can go ahead, Will. So just to get back, we've been presenting for a fair amount of time, and I want to thank the folks that presented to you. But just our current reality is that we are in the monitoring phase, and so the good news is that we all get to start distance learning together, and in some ways I think that's an advantage. We talked about the survey information around the AABB, and that there was by staff, there was a nod to the AABB model. We talked about the instructional model options, distance learning and next steps, our work on special education and wellness and mental health support. So if you don't mind, Will. So tonight we recommend that we adopt the plan for instruction for 2020-2021, recognizing that this is not everything that will be in our work, that it will continue to evolve, but that we are starting with both the continuum and full year distance learning. We talked about the return to school process. Clearly, when we get closer to that, there will be many more discussions and information on that. But with adopting the hybrid schedule of AABB, and then later in the board meeting, we're going to ask you to make a slight modification to the school year with the start date of August 20th. So with that, we do have a speaker, so I don't want to, I want to make sure that we get that in there, but we are open to any questions that the trustees may have as well.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of concern, so this is more of a clarity about the special ed students who would be entering the independent study or homeschooling program, and if that's a change in their schooling or their IEP. So I know that we've, passed our policies that would reserve each student's space at their school. So I guess we just need clarity that the special ed children with IEPs who are going into homeschooling won't lose their services.
Yeah, I can answer that, Laverne. Thanks for asking. The conversations I've had with families who have children with IEPs are to really reach out to their child's case manager or myself to help facilitate that conversation around being able to determine those placements, which would be a function of that IEP team, and that we would want to look at how we can provide that in the best option possible, which is possible that could be the homeschool option, in which case we would look to see how we could support those services.
So I don't want to push you, Julie, but is that a yes or a no? I mean, are our special ed kids going with IEPs who enter the homeschooling program, are they still going to have their services? I mean, we're only 3 weeks away. So if I were a special ed parent, to a student, I think I would want to know what school my child would need to go to, or if there's going to be exceptions so that we can provide services to those. And, I'm not sure what the reasoning would be for a parent to homeschool, except a medical, reason why they can't go in, or they can't meet the meetings that you have during the day. So I think I just need a little bit more.
So I can answer that just a little bit, is that Julie was absolutely right, is that it will be based on the student's IEP team, whether that's enough support for the student, right? So we're not saying that they're not allowed to be in the home study program, but typically students that have a special day class placement do require a higher level of service. And so the question is can that be provided in the home study program? Or is there another way to do it through distance learning if a student can't come into school because they're medically fragile? And so that could also be provided from their special day class. So if anyone has questions, they could just talk to their case manager, or they could talk to Julie about what would be the best placement for their child.
Yep. And that will be something I know that I'd be happy to talk about too with each family, because that could certainly be a very individualized choice.
I'm sorry, Lauren.
Oh, I just think there needs to be some reassurance to the special ed parents and families that their child's going to be able to receive their services no matter which program they choose.
In the distance learning and the continuum, all services will be provided to the degree that they are providable from a virtual standpoint. I think if we look at the home study program or the home school program, that's much less teacher time, and so there's typically much fewer services. And so again, we would want the parents to be working with the case managers to make sure that that was the right placement for students. For a few students that might be the right placement, but we want to make sure that the team is working together to make that right placement for the student.
And has there been any movement on finding out about the hospital teachers, the ones that, you know, could come to the home and help the student? Has there been any more movement on that from the district office?
Yep. So it's actually listed in our parent notifications as an alternative program, and it's really intended for students that are not able to come to school and really very, you know, needing a very specific. So if we look in the continuum of least restrictive to most restrictive, that is delivered individually to the student. I don't know the amount of time that it is, but it's very little. It's like 1 hour per week. It is like home study, but it's not necessarily meant to be, it's not where the home study is a plan, that's something that you do for a whole year. It's really for students that are maybe in crisis or have a very serious medical condition that keep them out of school. Like I know that when I was a principal, I had a student who had cancer, and she and her family, while they were at home, were not able to come to school. And so the home hospital teacher would come over once a week and they'd talk about the work that they did. So it's actually listed as one of our alternative programs.
Thank you for answering that. That kind of clears it up. I just think that maybe the communication, because we just received, I don't know if the other board members received this letter from the parent, but I just, you know, we're in a pandemic and we're sitting here trying to look over the plan for the next year. And so I just, you know, even though the special ed, we have to follow certain laws, you know, I think we need to be flexible with them as well and not just put them in the regular buckets that we usually put them into, because more than ever, we're going to need to help them.
We agree.
Yeah, I agree. And I will definitely be available tomorrow too in our parent special ed parent education meeting too as well to answer or explain more upon that.
Is there any way I can forward this email to you so you can address it in that meeting? So there's no more confusion between the special ed parents. Thank you, Julie.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Do any of my other colleagues have any questions they want to raise?
I have two questions,
Please.
both for Will. One, just a clarifying question on your minutes. Those are daily minutes, right? Not weekly minutes, the requirements.
Yeah, those are daily minutes. Yeah.
Okay. And then my other question is about hotspots. How many hotspots have been requested? And then how many do we have right now minus the Bayshore collection?
We have 348 hotspots were requested. Now there may be some situations where they're doubled up, and also we need to take into consideration that if a household requested multiple, I think there was actually one that had requested 4 for their house, for their 4 children at their house. That number might be lower, because you really only need 1 per house. So 340, and then we had, so what was delivered to us was 40 from Bayshore, trying to work that out to get our 60 that we should get. And we also had 20 from the San Mateo Library last year. And we have 4 of those. There's 16 that are out with families right now, from last, carried them over the summer. So once we get the 60, we'll have, once we get our right order, we'll have 80 altogether with the 20 from the library and with the 60 from San Mateo County. And then we're looking at purchasing. We were actually looking at that today, purchasing more to just get us just to get us started.
We're interested in providing them to the people that need them. I also, I think we need to do a little bit of a communication piece, because I think there's a link missing. Is some of the people that didn't need Chromebooks need a hotspot, and so they have the devices but they don't have internet. And part of the belief is when you listen to the news, you hear about all of the free technology that the governor is bringing to us and all of these things that are available. We have to pay for that. And we don't mind doing it when people need it, as long as, and I think maybe with 350, more people just thought they're free, so they're available. And we'll click back with people. People are very, very generous and honest, and we don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. If this is the way we're doing learning, we have to make sure people have access to it, right? And we know that with internet, if parents are on the internet and more than one child, sometimes that causes a strain. Again, that would be a perfect reason to have a hotspot. So we just need to clean up what we think that number is and be honest with people and make them available to people who need them.
I was going to say, I know Comcast used to offer a very low rate on internet. I don't know if there's other people or companies that are coming up, but maybe we should also make sure we're promoting those options just to kind of help fill any gaps that we might have in the district.
We've gotten a couple of offers and some through the governor about it. The device is free. They usually say the device is free, and then the monthly cost or whatever. And then so we've had like an offer for $10 each for each device, $10 a month, and then we've had a $15 one. So we've looked at the Verizon, and then there was Comcast, but then there was another one. Heather, can you help me? There was another one. T-Mobile, thank you, T-Mobile. And so we've been looking at all of them, looking at our best option that way. And then, like Heather says, we just like we did in the spring when we only had 20 available, 20 hotspots. We literally reached out to families and asked, we have a limited supply. What can many and we were able to get a few families to say, no, we have a place that we can still do it, and so we don't need it. And so that doesn't mean that we didn't hit everybody. There was definitely some families that. But we'll do the same thing. We'll have a larger supply to give out, but we'll be able to kind of reach out and find out those families that really do need it. because we still have that list from last year of those families that really, really needed it, and many of them are still needing it this year.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a quick question. That in previous years, the PE minutes were such a big deal, and now with all this and distance learning, has that all gone by the wayside? Is the state just waiving that area, or are they expected to find some way to come up with that by distance learning?
Yeah, the state has waived the requirements for PE minutes, but they have that it's still should encourage to do it. We have some fantastic PE teachers out there. Christy is one of them that I'm thinking about, that is really kind of taking the forefront in developing about how the PE can occur in a distance learning format, not just for her grade level, for her teams, but also for all the grade levels. So it is true, it's not, the minutes are not required, but we're trying to still encourage that PE be part of that program, and that could be the movement time, or like it could be connected to the break. So the education behind physical education.
I have one more question. This one has to do with the day once school starts on the virtual end, and a parent is not at home to help their student. They're a single mom who has to work. I'm wondering if the Zoom instruction will be recorded so that, a parent who is working during the day and not able to be online right there in that moment, if it will be something that the parent can go back to so they can help their child.
Yeah, there will be, I don't know if I can answer that fully, Laverne, I'll give it a shot, but there will be, there will be taped video lessons, like that parents and students can go back and refer to if they're confused. The option is that during that synchronized time, especially if it's whole class synchronized time, trying to in a way minimize that time and have more of the small group instructional time, which will just the idea of having that small group piece will in and of itself allow the student to be a little more independent, be getting a little more attention, and it won't be a whole class thing where they might get lost in a lesson that way. But the asynchronous time when they're doing that work, part of that asynchronous time will be, videos or resources to refer to help the student, do the work that they need to do. So, and that's the part that would be flexible, that can be pulled at any time, if a parent wants to help at night or at their non-working hours time, they'll be able to pull those resources. So that's why it's really important that in these first weeks that we really focus on not just the staff professional development on this, but also a parent trainings on how these tools work and how they can pull these videos and where they can get resources. I'm really impressed. I'm really thankful for what Christy is doing with as far as building up that parent hub website with the resources, and those will include a lot of like videos and trainings on tools and stuff like that, and then also the content piece where we're purchasing and we're pulling in resources that are helpful in those areas, as far as like videotaped lessons, mini lessons, resources that they can go to that is outside of that live instructional time, structured time.
So I would like to just jump in here on that, because that was one of my questions. You mentioned technology training for families, and so I think you just alluded to the fact that training is going to involve not just connecting and using the different pieces of software that children need to connect to the education, but also more of the substantive, how to apply the actual ed tech software that they're using, the different the different packages. Is that true? Or I wasn't really sure if the technology training was more on the hardware and connectivity side, or more on how to help your kid in particular on the asynchronous component of their learning.
Yeah, it's more on that side, and it is, yes, they're, you know, like say a TK2 parent, the main platform for communication is Seesaw. So there's going to be this training about how to utilize Seesaw. The teachers will help with that part of it, but they'll also be, you know, we'll be able to put together a video that will show how that can work, or the use of a tool like Screencastify or those type of things that the staff would need, that, you know, training along that's the use of a tool. But all of these, all of our adopted material, the online piece has a parent resource piece to support online learning. So that's more of the substance piece. Well, they'll be able to utilize those resources to support their child in that learning.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I wanted to invite, I have a couple more questions, but I wanted to invite my colleagues if they have any more questions to join in first.
I have one more question.
Sure.
In the past years, we've had welcome to the Pacifica School District to welcome our kinder families or new families into the district. And I'm just wondering if we're going to have time. I know that we are very busy, but we do still have, you know, new parents that just moved into Pacifica and they're not familiar with our schools. And I'm just wondering if that's something that we would try to do just to welcome them into the district and, you know, answer any questions that they might have. Or is that something that we're leaving up to the PTOs?
I can answer that one. Is that I have not done a before school welcome to Pacifica School District. We did a kindergarten welcome to kindergarten session last spring with the new kindergarten parents. But one of the things that's I actually haven't even talked to the principals about the dates for back to school night. We set those, but that's one place. The other is Julie is working with the new special education teachers around how to meet with the parents prior to school, just so that they get a sense of who that teacher is. That was our thought around that is, and then typically every school has a kindergarten before, not either before school or just as school is starting, is a welcome to kindergarten event, whether that's just right before school. So I don't know whether those are happening or not.
Oh, we did have them, I would say probably about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, where it would be, you know, a production where all of the new parents and kinder parents, you know, could go for all of the information, particularly, you know, on PEF, so that we could still support PEF, the PTOs, so they could support the PTOs, and, you know, any of the extracurriculars that might be going on. And I know we're in COVID times, but I still feel like the kindergarten families who are new and the new parents, you know, who are transferring from a different place, I still feel that's important to reach out to them, you know, in some kind of virtual way, just so that they have information and they feel welcomed.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any of my colleagues have any other questions before I move on? Okay, I wanted to preface my questions with just a thanks and an acknowledgement of how incredibly difficult all of this is, and how much work has gone into this. So thank you so much for continuing to expand upon this plan. I have a couple of questions here. One of my questions is for Ms. Carrillo, and one of the things that I really didn't quite get or understand is how push-in services would work in a virtual environment.
So I think there will be a great help in that there will be much more alignment, as we mentioned, around like those scheduled times that that there will be sort of set grade level meetings. And that push-in model may look like a speech therapist zooming in with that class along with that teacher. Really getting a chance to explore some of those co-teaching opportunities. And then from there, you could utilize a breakout room in a Zoom session if you wanted to do some more group sessions, but that provider is in that classroom to sort of hear what that instruction is and how to tailor that child's needs to that specific goal. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it would definitely certainly depend on the service, but I think there will be a lot more opportunities to develop that in a more authentic and intentional way.
Sure, thanks. That's really helpful. And I don't ask to put you on the spot. I ask because it just sounds like an extremely challenging issue.
It definitely is, and it will be, but I think that there are ways that we can do that, and we're gonna again look to, I think, some models that were successful in that and then try to understand why and how that worked.
Okay. Because I mean, clearly, the push-in services are really key for mainstreaming students with special needs, right? And not pulling them out and necessarily crowding out time that they're in the regular educational setting, right? The general educational setting. So, okay, thank you very much for that. I have a question for Mr. Lucy, and that is one thing that I didn't hear about in the plan is about testing it all. And I know we're not ready for that. Really, it's the last thing that anybody wants to do right now. But once we get into the groove, is there a plan for testing? And in specifically, it would seem that formative testing would be just extremely important to do as we're delivering education in a completely new environment. It's brand new. So we really want to be able to focus in on where individual students are having troubles and how on sort of a almost a lesson, on a lesson basis or on certain concepts, right? I know summative testing, sort of the end of the year testing, is just off of everybody's radar, and it probably should be, but it would seem that formative testing would be really important to do at some point to gauge how students are doing in this new environment, whether they're full distance learning or, in the hybrid mode. So if you could just, just comment on that, that would be great. Because I didn't see anything, and maybe I missed it, but I didn't see anything in the plan.
Yeah, part of it is this. I'll start off by saying that the new teachers project. Part of that professional development is around how do you do formative assessment in a distance learning environment, and also we are also going to be providing a continuous professional development around this thing called the distance learning playbook. And within that, they have an assessment section. And then the other piece is, as far as professional development, is those teachers, those third of our teachers or fourth of our teachers that went to that summer program, there was a section on that about how do you do formative assessment. And it was along the ideas of, because traditionally at this point of the year, we create an assessment calendar, and the assessment calendar has the formative, has the diagnostic, and it has the summative. And, and usually there's a lot of argument back and forth about what's important and what's not important with those particular assessments, but we usually come to some sort of agreement, and that's in our, what do we call that? The regular world that we were in before. But in this new distance learning thing, the push is around this idea of looking at the curriculum that you're utilizing, looking at that and pulling from that those assessment pieces, and that they're done in a way that there's direct and authentic feedback, not instantaneously, but right away, so that they can really monitor those points. You don't have these students physically in your classroom and be able to do assessing in a traditional sense, but utilizing those adopted curriculums that we do have, and utilizing those assessments within those adopted to be able to to know progress, to distinguish if a student's making progress and where those learning gaps are. So there are a number of assessment tools that are thinking of learning or looking at to utilize that, but we really are trying to base it off our district adopted curriculum and those assessments within that. But all of that, I mean, that professional development with the new teachers project is going to be really able to guide them once they've identified standards and once they've figured out where those learning gaps are, then they'll be able to move from there. But again, utilizing what adopted material we already have.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful that's being seen to. I just wanted to add one more piece to this, and as parents are being really brought in to be partners in the teaching process here, I think it's going to be really, really important to be able to communicate the results of diagnostic assessment. Sorry, diagnostics. I meant formative assessments to the parents so they can also help. Because, if a portion of a kid's time is going to be in asynchronous learning, and, the parents are the ones that are going to be the support for that part of the day, right? Or those days. So I think it's going to be really, really important that we form a true partnership with parents and bring them in as teaching partners, because that's what they are. I mean, we are.
Yeah. It's like when you're in a classroom and you have small group instruction, in a distance learning environment, when they're in those small groups, the hope is that those students are getting instantly where they're at and what they need to work on and what they need praise. If you're minimizing or lessening the time you're doing whole class and you're meeting with students in groups, that be a natural attrition to that piece, that assessment piece, is that they're getting regular progress. But I completely agree with you that the parents and the guardians need to know how they're doing so that they can support during that asynchronous time.
Okay, thank you very much. I have one more question. That's for Ms. Carrillo again, and there was some talk today about the really trying to tailor a student's distance learning or hybrid learning program according to the needs and the best practices set out in their IEPs. And I'm wondering, it seems like you probably have a big log of IEPs to go through, and I'm wondering if you're taking more of a proactive approach to systematically reach out to every family to go over their IEPs, or if it's going to be more of a reactive approach and parents have to know that they have to schedule meetings with you or with the IEP team to do this, because it's going to really shape what services they get over the year in this new environment. So
yeah, I think I think the latter would be, to me, I would think that it would be really unfortunate if come November we come to hear of, supports or service providing, like if things weren't working. And I think that's where I'm looking to just really readily make myself available to be able to help facilitate understanding that, our case providers or support providers, case managers, they're going to be doing that hard work with students on a day-to-day basis. And so they can't always be that point person in the moment, but those families may need that help right away. So I do look forward to being more proactive and working with our team as our SPED staff comes back to work, to be able to really put into place some ways that we can easily meet those needs of our families. So that is definitely the intention there. And I do know that, other districts are doing that in different creative ways. So we're kind of looking at what's going to fit for us and how we can both best engage with our families in that. But certainly in the meantime, I know I'm calling families on the phone. I know principals are doing the same. And so I would just encourage those families to not wait. And we will do our part to seek them out as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are all of my questions for you guys. Again, great job. Thank you so much for all the hard work that you put into this.
Can I have one more comment? This is more of a comment. Last meeting we approved going virtual 100%. And I think the thing that I would like to see in continuing this is a timeline. And the reason I was watching other school districts is to see how they're going about their plans. And a plan without a timeline to me is not complete. So if I have to vote on this tonight, I'm voting on it so that we can move ahead, but the timeline isn't there. So for example, we are going to do, distance learning for the first 6 weeks. And then 2 weeks before that, we're gonna look at the science again to see if we're going to move forward in the hybrid model, or are we going to continue to distance learn? Because I feel I'm just one of those people where I need to see what is ahead. And I feel like this isn't complete without that. So like I said, I'll vote, on it tonight, but I just feel like it's not complete without the timelines in there.
Laverne, I don't think any of us can predict a timeline on this. I think everybody's timelines are kind of out the window. And now that we're on the watch list, we have to wait 14 days till after we're off the watch list before we can reopen. So we really don't have control over when we get off the watch list.
Yes, Elizabeth, I understand that. But I'm still saying we can still put some dates in there so that we can have an idea of when we're going to meet. Maybe we meet and we say exactly what you just said, and that we're going to continue with distance learning. That's just my opinion, and you have your opinion, but that's how I feel that this isn't complete without some kind of timelines of when we're going to discuss what's going to happen and how we move forward.
Okay. So I think on slide 7, the last bullet says we will evaluate the prospects every 6 weeks, and then the board's meeting every 3 weeks. So I think it's somewhat baked in there already into the plan. It's not a strict timeline, but it is a frequency with which we are going to reassess. So
exactly. And the reasoning for me is so that we can know if the teacher and the family and the child are going to be in distance learning for X amount of weeks or not.
Yeah.
So even now we could, say that for the first 12 weeks, we're going to be in distance learning, just so that there's some kind of stability instead of depending, just waiting and seeing what happens. Anytime I have to wait and see about something, I don't like that. But this is, COVID, and we have to do that. But on the other side, we could, add some more dates to that.
I think in the presentation too was open-ended because I think the thought was to try and get the younger grades, TK through second, back as soon as safely possible. So I think that's another, you don't want to say, 12 weeks or something, and then things start getting, miraculously start getting better. You want to still be able to bring them back as soon as we can have in person especially for the little ones. And Jesse, I think we have some public comment people that.
Yes, we do. So Kristen Fong has been extremely patient. So I would like to give the mic to Kristen Fong, please.
Thank you so much. Good evening, board members. I'm speaking to you tonight on behalf of the full year distance learning program, as well as those students and staff in the continuum model. As you and those at the district office embark on making these difficult decisions for the care and safety of our students in this district, I ask you to show great thought when grouping students into classrooms for this upcoming year. Speak with staff who know these students and take utmost care with creating groupings that promote their socio-emotional health and confidence. I urge this especially for those choosing the full year distance learning model approach, because many of these children may find themselves in a class of unfamiliar peers and an unfamiliar teacher. My hope is that you will strongly consider grouping children of the same school site who choose that learning model together so that they at least see a familiar face. There need to also be strong steps for uniformity in the forms of curriculum and implementation so that regardless of whatever program a student chooses, there are opportunities for peers to connect with other grade level peers. Further, I hope that the board and district pledge to support all staff in meaningful professional development for living and teaching in a virtual world, as this is clearly our reality for the foreseeable future. Our staff who will be instructing a full year of distance learning will especially benefit from the support of the district and collaboration with Continuum teachers to reach their students in creative ways. Finally, now that the family decisions have been made, it is important to create more concrete plans for both models and establish clear lines of communication for parents and staff when issues undoubtedly will arise. For instance, it is my understanding that as of yet, there still is no clear plan as to who will be the principal or point person for the full year distance learning model. This is one of many decisions that needs to be established prior to the first day of school. As has been mentioned in previous meetings, please continue to over-communicate with us as parents and continue listening to our thoughts and concerns with a careful and empathetic ear as you've been. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have questions that are in the Q&A, and that's not what this is for public comment. So thanks for your input. We will definitely read this, but we're not going to read it out to the whole audience of the board meeting. So that being said, I think, are we ready to vote on this? That is, do I have a motion to, let me get this right here. Do I have a motion to approve the return to school plan for the 2020-2021 school year?
I'll motion to approve the return to school plan.
I will second.
Thank you. Ms. Campos, will you please take the roll call vote?
Yes. Trustee Bradall.
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Levin.
Yes.
And Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are at item 11B, tentative agreement between Pacifica School District and Classified School Employees Association. Ms. O'Flaherty.
Thank you. We are bringing forth today the tentative agreement that was reached between the Pacifica School District and CSEA. I would first like to thank our CSEA partners for their collaboration in reaching this tentative agreement and to bring the negotiations to a close for the 2019-20 school year. The tentative agreement includes Article A agreements regarding unscheduled closures to include if a work site is closed due to an emergency, employees would be compensated at their regular pay. It was also addressed that if an employee had a previously scheduled vacation or personal necessity or other paid leaves or sick leave, they would not be required to use those leaves on the days that the work site was closed. There was an amendment to Article 14 regarding the transfer procedures and the process for employees requesting a transfer, as well as the notification process to employees who have a transfer request already on file. There was an amendment to Article 18 regarding the layoff and reemployment procedures to notify that an employee will be given written notice no less than 20 days prior to the effective layoff date. And there was agreements to Article 10, a one-time pay of $400 prorated based on an employee's FTE. The tentative agreement was ratified by CSEA on July 22nd, 2020. I again would like to thank CSEA for their collaboration and partnership during negotiations. It is recommended to the board, that the board approve the tentative agreement between the Pacifica School District and CSEA.
Thank you very much. Do any of my colleagues have any questions regarding the tentative agreement between Pacifica School District and CSEA?
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
Okay, I don't have any questions either. Do I have a motion to approve the tentative agreement between Pacifica School District and CSEA?
I'll make the motion to approve.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay. Ms. Campos, will you please take the vote?
Yes. Trustee Bradall.
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Levin.
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So item 11C, the 2020-2021 school year calendar revised. Ms. O'Flaherty, you again.
Thank you. We are proposing a change in the adopted school calendar for the 2020-2021 school year. In order to provide professional development for implementing distance learning, it is requested that we add one professional development day to August, which would move the beginning of the school year for students to August 20th instead of August 19th. We will add one instructional day to April 2nd to fulfill the needed 180 days. This would mean that professional development and staff preparation would occur on August 17th, 18th, and 19th, 2020. Students would begin instruction on August 20th, 2020, and would engage in the required 180 days of instruction throughout the 2020-2021 school year. It is recommended that the board approve the revised calendar for the 2020-2021 school year to reflect this change.
Thank you very much. Do any of my fellow trustees have questions?
No questions.
No questions.
No
No
questions.
questions.
I have no questions either. I am going to motion to approve the 2020-2021 school year calendar revision. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Ms. Campos, will you please take the vote?
Yes. Trustee Burdall.
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Levin.
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Item 11D, special education staffing update for the 2020-2021 school year. Ms. O'Flaherty, you again.
Thank you. I am thrilled to announce that as of today, we have filled all but 3 special education vacancies. All of the RSP vacancies have been filled, with the exception of the resource specialist position at Sunset Ridge, which we will be interviewing for tomorrow. All of our SDC positions are filled. We have 1 psychologist vacancy, which we are currently in the process of offering the position to a candidate. We are also in need of an occupational therapist. However, we interviewed a candidate this week and are also in the process of offering that position to that candidate. I have confidence that all 3 vacancies will be filled prior to the first day of school. This has been a team effort to fill these positions. I would like to thank everyone who has been a part of the hiring process for our openings. Thank you to LSEA and CSEA members, and thank you district and site administrators for assisting in filling these vacancies. I appreciate all your time and truly appreciate your engagement during this process.
I'd like to just jump on there and just say this is a huge win for us to be in this position just a couple weeks before school started. This is much different than last year, and it really is a full court press that went in, and the multiple people that were on the interview panels, we want to thank. So thank you very much. Nice work, Alexis O'Flaherty, Julie Carrillo, principals.
So on behalf of the board, I want to thank you all as well. This is a great improvement over last year, and let's just keep up the good work. This is great. It's really important to serve these kids.
Can I just ask a question as well? At the last board meeting, Alexis, I'm glad you're on board. I'm hoping that we can start to get some bilingual staff members and teachers. So I'm just wondering how that's going in your interview process for candidates who are fluent in Spanish.
Thank you for that, Laverne. We screen all of our candidates and we interview based on their credentials that they have or their licenses that they have, depending on the position themselves. And to be honest, we interview everybody who is qualified for the position. So I don't know if that really answers your question, Laverne.
Has anybody been bilingual?
Yes, they have been. they have been. I don't know the exact number.
I just wanted to focus on that if we could, because it's an equity concern for our English learners, for special ed, you know, anybody who speaks Spanish. And so that's why I'm addressing it. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from my fellow trustees? No? Okay. That was an informational item, so we're going to move on to item 11E, CSBA Governance Workshop. Superintendent Olson. You are muted.
Shucks. Okay, very good. So when I was first hired as the superintendent, we put together a governance handbook, and we have brought on 2 new members, and I'm a relatively new superintendent, but it's time to work on strengthening the team as a whole. And so in our discussions, we talked about having a governance team meeting. And so I bring to you, I was directed to CSBA, to a woman named Luann Rivera, who comes very highly recommended from South San Francisco, and have had conversations with her regarding a governance team meeting. And she can do 1 6-hour session or 2 3-hour sessions. And she recommends that the 2 3-hour sessions be within the same week, or at even best is 2 afternoon or evenings together, right? So it could be like Wednesday, Thursday. And so I would ask the board to consider approving a governance team meeting, and then working on some available dates. And if the dates that Ms. Rivera is not available don't work for us, I will ask if it's approved for Suzanne to work on some future dates.
Thank you. So do I have questions or comments from the board? Trustee Villalobos.
My only concern is that I agree with this. I think we need to review the processes and the workshop, though. We have 3 board members who are up for reelection. And I think, Heather, you said there were 10 interested people at the meeting. And so I think we said this was $3,000. And so I was just hoping that we could wait until after the election, because as a new board member, I know anytime you're actually rolling up your sleeves and in the process of doing something, such as important, you know, governance, I think they would benefit from that, no matter who it is. But there's definitely going to be, you know, 3 new positions open, and that's just my thing. Is I think we should wait until we have the new board together.
Other questions, comments?
I also think it's a good idea just to wait, just in case, because we do want whoever's on the board to benefit from that training.
I talked to Ms. Rivera about the timing of the election, and potentially bringing on new board members. And our thinking is that the stronger the team is that those perhaps newly elected officials come into, the better, right? So that if we are a strong, high-functioning team that that knows the roles and responsibilities and is able to drive with a single focus, that to bring some new people into that makes it only stronger. So we did discuss that, and thought that we would do something this fall, and that as soon as those new members joined the team, that we would also do something, say in January or February, that it would be that valuable to bring on, to do now, and to also do January, February.
I think it would be valuable to do now with a touch up later, but at the moment we have 3 positions open. We have 3 people applied, 2 of which are, currently on the board. So at this point, it would only be 1 new person. Potentially, we'll know more Friday. But I think we could vote to go ahead with this, and after Friday, knowing the election, we could talk about the dates at a future time, but approved going forward with the workshop.
Yeah, I would agree that we're going to at least have 3, maybe 4 of us are going to be on probably moving forward. And so even if 1 or 2 of us are not here next time, we'd still have that core that would be would have that foundation. So I'm sorry on the fence, but I do think it would definitely be valuable for all of us.
I think that it's a good idea. I mean, I think I'm going to go one step further. I think that actually it's just good practice to have one of these every couple of years, just as a, just to update it. And it's not just about training. It's also about crafting and modifying. So this is a document that that can and should be changed as necessary, right? I mean, it's a relatively new document. It was just written 2 years ago, and there could be things in there that we don't think has worked particularly well. So I'm all for it. I'm kind of easy on the timing. I'll defer to my trustees here. I think there's been sort of and the superintendent, the case has kind of been made to do it this fall in preparation for the new board coming in, and to do it after. I don't have huge opinions either way, but I do think that it's a very, very useful exercise and something that should be done regularly, just necessarily every 2 or 3 years, just to review it and give it an overhaul. So.
I agree with you, Jesse, but what I'm saying is that if we have 3 new board members, they will benefit greatly from seeing how that process goes. And I believe the dates we were looking at were the middle to end of September. So we would just be waiting for another 45 days, until those new people come in. And as you know, being a new board member, any kind of information or training you can get is very beneficial. And there is a cost to this. Heather, I don't remember exactly how much it was.
Hang on. So if we do it in 1 day, it's $2,700. If we do it over 2 days, it's $3,400 for 2 days. So I think school districts that have boards that make incredibly challenging decisions under incredibly challenging times have found this training to be very, very helpful. And it's not just done once every couple of years. Like many boards do this kind of work at least twice a year. I think if you look at the work that Jefferson does, they do it frequently. South San Francisco meets frequently. It's more than just once a year. It's ongoing and just built in as a part of their schedule.
I completely understand that. Right now, I'm just feeling a little different because we're in a pandemic. And I feel like some of the, if we have new board members, they're going to be on the board for 2 years, excuse me, for my apologies. So I would just really find it more beneficial for those new board members who are going to be on the board for 2 and 2 years, I believe, or is there 1 4-year?
No, there's 1 2 year and 2 4 years.
And I'm all for doing it. I'm just saying, let's just wait until we have the new board members while we're muddling through this pandemic.
I think partly because we're in the pandemic, we need to, a more solid base. And what would be the expense of having her come back or meet with the new board members in January? Because if we wait till then, you're waiting 4 months through very trying times that I think we could be more cohesive if we had this sooner than later.
I agree with you. And when we say we, we're talking about the 5 members that are here now. But come November, there may be a new bunch of people.
Let's just vote on it.
Okay, well, do I have a motion to approve, and let me get this right, the CSBA governance workshop?
I'll motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, Ms. Campos, will you please take the vote?
Yes. Trustee Burdall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
No.
Board passes 4-0.
Okay, thank you. We are at item 11F, Board Policy 0415, Equity. Superintendent Olson.
Yep. This comes back to us because when we were talking last time, it was a little late in the meeting, but there was a request to add LGBTQA, and where we had suggested to put it, Will, do you mind pulling up that policy so that we can see it? Perfect. So we had, I'm pointing it to it, and not that you can all see my pointing, but where we had said that we were going to put it was in that section highlighted that said pursuant to Ed Code 201. And there's actually some better places to put it because we can't change the Ed Code. The Ed Code is static. That's the law. So if you can move up, Will, that would be helpful. Oh, right there. Last paragraph on the first page. Right there, perfect. And it says the board shall make decisions with a deliberate awareness of impediments to learning faced by students of color, comma, and or diverse cultural, linguistic, or socioeconomic backgrounds. I believe that it can go right in that paragraph right there. In that sentence would be the most appropriate place to put that. So we just bring this to you. We can, I just wanted to bring that to your attention based on the request to include it. And because we said where we were going to put it last time, Suzanne and I didn't catch that during the meeting. So that would be our recommendation, would be to approve this policy with the understanding that it would say deliberate awareness of impediments to learning faced by students of color, comma, LGBTQ students and or diverse cultural, linguistic, and or socioeconomic backgrounds.
Thank you. Do we have comments, questions from the board?
Nope. No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
I have no questions. I'm very happy with this modification.
Okay, perfect. And let me just check, that's discussion. So we'll bring it back next time and it'll go in consent unless we have any other reason to pull that.
Actually, I think that's an action item.
This is an action item. Yeah.
Oh, good. Perfect. Excellent.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will motion to approve the modification to BP 0415 equity. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Could we get a vote on this, Ms. Campos?
Yes. Trustee Burdall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are at item 11G, Racial Equity Committee update.
Perfect. So this is looking for direction on the formation of the committee when we passed this summer, both the resolution and the committee. We said that at this meeting we would talk about such things as who should be on the committee, when they should meet, a bit of the format of how to get the committee started. And I have one very simple question, and do we refer to this as the Racial Equity Committee, or do we refer to it as the Equity Committee? In the summer, we approved the Racial Equity Committee.
You know, I put a lot of thought into that, like equity versus racial. And I believe, you know, with the times that we're in right now, I think it's critical to have racial in there. Also, you know, we're even passing the BP 0415 equity. That is an update to what we're doing to try to change. And so the other updates I wanted to give is that I see the next agenda item is the equity network. And I did have a chance to communicate with Kalima, who's the president of the board for Jefferson Union High School District. And the way I understand it is that we kind of had a little discussion about when 2 board members went. We didn't get the other 3 board members didn't get the information that was presented. And so I think, you know, we need to build off of that because Jesse and Kai right now have information that the other 3 board members don't. So I think even updating us on what was learned would be beneficial. And then also Jefferson Union High School District has a community equity committee already. And so because our 8th graders are part of the Jefferson Union High School District community, we and them are allowed to go to their committees. The problem is that we're in a time of COVID, so these 2, the Jefferson Community Equity Committee doesn't have any dates right now because they are trying to reopen school. And so that's why I wanted it to be an update instead of an actual discussion about that. Because if some of the things are already in place, then I think we can build off of that and we won't have to start from ground zero. Does that make sense? Thank you.
Thanks. Probably if we had thought about it, we might have put these 2 things in different order, put the network first in terms of the board item and then this. So do you think that we should table this till another time, vote on the equity network, and then use some of that and what's happening with the Jefferson Community Equity Network and wait for that? Is that what you're saying?
I think if we just let a little time go by, like with the reopening of schools, I think there's going to be more information on the Community Equity Committee already. It's just they don't record them. They don't have minutes. So it's something that I couldn't go and look and, you know, research on. But definitely the equity network, you know, is something. That's the other thing is I had questions about the Brown Act and how all 5 of us could go, and Kalima reassured me that when it's something in training like that, all 5 board members can attend. And so I think even us going in that direction, if all 5 of us do decide to attend, that we're working towards that goal. And so I do think we need to wait until the openings of our neighboring schools is in process too, because I could get more information on that committee that's already in place.
I would appreciate that. I think that's good timing.
And I just think if we don't have to start from ground zero, that would even be more helpful.
Yeah. So this was just a discussion item, so we don't need to take action either way. Thank you. We should probably check in with everyone else. It's hard when I don't see you all on one screen.
Okay, so shall we move on?
Sure.
Okay. Sure. I mean, the next item is an action item and actually directly relates to this. So 11H, participation in the San Mateo County School Board Association Equity Network. Superintendent Olson.
So the way that I understand the Equity Network Year 2 to run is that it's more tailored to a school district. And so there may be one large meeting with San Mateo County School Boards, but it really is around tailoring it toward the needs of a school district, and that it would include, I'm just looking at my notes here, it would include sessions with Nicole Anderson, and it could be 4 in-person work study meetings or 1 longer work study meeting, something that we might do 2 4-hour sessions or 4 2-hour sessions. But what would be nice about this is that we wouldn't have, we'd have the support in doing some of the work that we want to do. This is the work that we want to do. We could develop our definition of equity. That's always really important with a district in terms of moving forward, because if everyone's operating from a different definition and the staff is operating from a different definition, that doesn't help. They could help, she could help us develop our plans. I think for $3,000, it's an absolute bargain to have 4 2-hour work studies. And so I would highly recommend that we sign up for this.
And Heather, I didn't see any dates for that in 2 sessions. Is that something that we work with Nicole on? Okay.
It is, and they would be our work studies, so we wouldn't have to connect with any other districts. And the other part is that we could learn from the other districts that have done some of this work, and then tailor it on our own. Any questions?
No, but I mean, I have an email from Kalima to me because I reached out to her after Laverne contacted me, or well, maybe contacted me through you, Superintendent Olson. But I just wanted to give it a little flavor for how it's working in Kalima's district. So it says for year 2, there will be 4 in-person work studies at your district. Nicole Anderson will work with your full board and whomever you choose to include in your work study for all 4 sessions. So for example, in our district, we'll have our exec cabinet, student trustees, student advisory committee, and possibly for 1 or 2 of those 4 meetings, their equity committee. If we were back on campus for one of the meetings, we could also possibly do an equity walk through one of our schools. During each meeting, Nicole will work with you to help develop goals and policies. So, again, it's $3,000. I think it is a really good deal for the amount of attention that we're going to get from Nicole. And she will also help us work through and draft an equity policy, I believe. It just seems like just a lot of attention for not a whole lot of money. And again, it's not just board members that sort of participate, it's really district staff as well. So I think this is a great idea.
Jesse, would any parent leaderships be able to attend too? Let's say a PTO president.
I mean, I personally don't see why not. I mean, according to Kalima, Nicole will work with your full board and whomever you choose to include in your work study for all 4 sessions. So you know, we could certainly bring parent representation in, which I think would be really important.
I think that's excellent. Excellent.
The program sounds great to me.
I'm just thinking maybe just throwing this out there. There's some school districts who have, good Lord, I cannot think of it. And here I am part of the American Indian Caucus. The curriculum for ethnic studies. And the only reason I haven't suggested it before is because there's a little bit of pushback from the Jewish community on how they are, how things are being taught in that curriculum. And so maybe that's something she could help us work through as well. And just because we adopt an ethnic studies policy doesn't mean we have to have a program, but, you know, just, you know, even having these webinars, you know, that give me information, I can pass them along to Heather, who can choose to pass them along to whoever.
So do we have any other questions or comments before we put this to vote? I will take that as a no. So do I have a motion to approve the participation in the San Mateo County School Board Association Equity Network?
I will make the motion to approve.
And do I have a second? Oh, I will second it. And Ms. Campos, will you please take the vote?
Yes. Trustee Bradall?
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini?
Yes.
Trustee Doggett?
Yes.
Trustee Levin?
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos?
Yes.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, next to last item here, 11I, discussion of LSEA, CSEA participation in board meetings. Superintendent Olson, yes.
Sure. At the July 21st board meeting, Trustee Villalobos requested that the board discuss how LSEA and CSEA leadership might participate in board meetings. Currently, LSEA and CSEA have a designated time on each regular board meeting agenda during communication. Trustee Villalobos will share her thoughts. We will ask Trustee Villalobos to share her thoughts to the board and for discussion.
Let's see if I can collect my thoughts. My thoughts are that we're in a pandemic, and this board and previous boards have not given LSEA or CSEA an elevated platform. And, you know, I can't think of any other better time to hear what LSEA and CSEA has to say throughout, either in a different format. So let me just give you some examples. When I watch Jefferson Union High School District board meetings, the president of their teachers union is right there in the panel, and she gets to comment on different items on the agenda. I just want to say, I don't even know if, you know, they would be interested in something like this. So that is one platform that I've seen. So being part of the panel, especially right now, you know, that we're doing the virtual meetings. The other way is, I don't know if the other board members received a note from LSEA, but having a health and safety committee during the pandemic. So when I talk about this, it's because of the pandemic, because I want to know how our stakeholders are feeling because we're in life or death situations right now. And I think it's a certain level of respect to hear them. You know, we're not the only ones. We're 5 board members and we get to govern, but when our kids are in the classrooms, it's definitely our teachers and our staff who are part of that. And the reason why I wanted to watch other board meetings since our last board meeting is I've seen a lot. I've seen some teachers refusing to go back into the classrooms because some of the district boards have said they're going to have in-person instruction. I read where one superintendent said, well, if they're not willing to do that, they can find another job. I don't want to be one of those boards who's putting down the hammer during a pandemic. I would like to hear the voices of the employees and you know, that the health and safety committee. That sounds like a good thing to me because, you know, we get to hear what's going on. They get to be part of the plan of going back to school. And I don't want to be one of those districts where the teachers are refusing to go back into the classrooms because the board didn't listen. And I understand there's a governance issue here, but I don't think it needs to be. I just want to put it out there right now that this isn't for a different platform for negotiations, not in my mind. It's a new platform for the safety of our employees. And so there's, you know, there could be a health and safety committee. There could be an invitation for LSEA and CSEA to be part of our board meeting instead of just at the beginning so that they can comment on the other agenda items. No voting, but commenting. It could also be the way that we did it 4 or 5 years ago. I know, Jesse, you and I went to go meet with some of the teachers at Valleymar Station. You know, it could be something like that, but just so that we have a pulse on how our team members are feeling and doing. And so that's why I just wanted to put it out there. Like I said, I don't even know if this would be something, you know, that would work, but we're in a pandemic. You know, for some people, it is a question of life and death. And I think that our regular protocols in our meeting may not be enough to hear how everybody is feeling. And that's why I requested it. Requested the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have questions and comments from my fellow board members?
I can comment. That's okay. I do think there is governance issues, and but we do, you know, we do definitely want to hear their comments and what they have to say, and that's very important. I think the time that they have at the beginning, I think one thing we could do is extend that beyond the 3 minutes. I think that would be, and as it is right now, even they can comment on any of the items and be able to give them extra time to comment, but not necessarily, you know, not be a board member, so to speak, but, you know, but we can insert more times if they have something to put forward. The LSEA and CSEA leaders, I think they could have more time to comment on the items of their choice. And like I said, we could eliminate the 3 minutes, I think, at the beginning. But I think between the Brown Act and the governance issues, you know, maybe we can find some compromise in between.
I just want to clarify that I didn't say they would be board members. They wouldn't vote, but they would have a voice on the agenda items.
I just have a quick question. Did you come up with this idea because you have knowledge of teachers not being heard, or because you saw this type of model, I think, in the Jefferson Union district? Because I'm just curious if we're missing something, like if there are people who think we're not hearing the needs of the teachers, versus maybe this is something that you saw and you think it's a good idea, but that's it. Like maybe you think it's a good idea because you saw it, or it's because you have knowledge that we are not listening to our teachers.
I can answer that. I do not have knowledge of any particular person. When I was watching the Jefferson Union High School District, I saw the teacher president and of the union, and I thought, well, who is she and what is going on? And also along their panel, kind of, I'm going to just compare it to like where Joe C sits, and usually in our board meeting, Joe C sits and Will sits and now Alexis and Julie. They also have given privilege to student voices to make comments on their agenda items. So yes, when I saw that, I was like, what is this? And we just happened to be going through a pandemic. And so most of it came from me. My sister's a teacher, my aunt's a teacher. I want to know how they're feeling. And so even though they're not here, I'm still concerned about the health of our teachers. And I think the way that we, I agree, the way we have our board set up right now for governance and hearing the comments from the public and the CSEA and LSEA is functional. But we're in a pandemic. And, for me, I think we just need to go the extra steps, kind of like we are through this whole process. There's no other school to go back on and see how they handled a pandemic, because that was in 1918. And so, that's why I just wanted to throw it out there that it would be a collaborative way to include the voices of LSEA and CSEA.
So your basic goal with this is to make sure that we are getting feedback from teachers, like increased feedback because of the pandemic.
That's exactly it. It's kind of like at an elevated voice, an elevated level.
Because I know that you don't want to create a board member position for a teacher, because we couldn't. But the goal, I want to be clear on the goal, because maybe this is not the solution, but the goal, which I think is a great goal, is to get more feedback from the teachers, especially during this pandemic, to have more of a voice from our teachers during our board meetings.
And our staff members. I just want to add that.
Okay.
Because, for example, when I envision a janitor who, let's say we're already in the hybrid model, he's going in there and he or she is cleaning, where possibly could be contaminated. Mm-hmm. And so the goal is just to get more feedback, because we're talking about something that has to do with health and safety of our employees. And, maybe it's just me.
I think it's a great idea. I'm not sure if this is the solution, but I think increased feedback is a good idea. I think that we do, especially during the pandemic, I think we do need something. I'm not sure what that is or what that looks like, but we should flesh this out more. I think I'm not sure what kind of research we need to do to find out how they participate more in the meetings, maybe giving increased time, maybe even having just an elevated status of a seat to discuss certain things, but or even increased meetings in some way, maybe work studies that we do with our staff and teachers at an increased rate. I'm just not sure this is the solution, because it's complicated because of the rules. You see what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not that we don't want it, it's that we don't want to break any kind of rule in terms of what we're supposed to do as a governance team, we're supposed to lead, we have rules, we have a Brown Act to follow, versus making sure we get the feedback that you think is important and we all think is important. So this needs
I
more.
would suggest for all the board members, I think I sent the links via Heather, to watch one of the Jefferson Union High School District board meetings, because they have managed a way to do it without breaking any rules. And I've also asked Heather if we would be breaking any laws by doing that. So maybe she could update us on that. But I just want to say that, you know, it's impressive when you get to hear more. Let me give you an example. You know, they have student representatives on their board. And one of the agenda items that came up towards the end of the meeting was about, I think she was a wrestler, and it was the rules about wrestling that the one of the assistant supers was talking about. And she kind of raised her hand and she said, well, you know, I was kind of hurt the last time, but the coach is like, oh no, you got to go in there. So at that agenda item, which was towards the end of the meeting, you had a student voice who was able to explain it, I guess, in real terms, you know, what it was really like. And so that made a difference. And so I'm just saying that it's being done in other districts. You know, if there's legalities around it, you know, we'd have to figure it out.
Well, let's figure that out first before we make a decision.
So I agree. I would love to hear more from the staff, particularly in the crisis that we're in. It's very important. It's very important that the staff, the district and the school staff work together as we continue planning. Now, I think that there are other ways to do this as well. One thing that has not been mentioned is we could certainly put a presentation item on the agenda, right, where they are showcased to share their concerns and their perspective, or they could tag along on an existing presentation that the staff, and I almost prefer that you know, that if we have a presentation, say by cabinet, that we also get LSEA and or CSEA staff involved in that as well, so they get to present part of that as well. So I think there are a lot of different things that we could do. I'm not ready to vote on this personally because it is totally unclear what we're talking about here. We haven't really decided, right? We don't really have a specific thing that we're voting on as to what this would look like. I think that we also have to, well, I mean, I guess we also have to be a little careful, because we have to remember that this 5-person board here, we're all elected officials, right? So we have been voted in to represent the public, and putting the staff at the same level, we can't present them as sort of, and I know Trustee Villalobos, you said that you're not saying that they're going to be board members or have any voting rights. I understand, but there's still the optics, right, of putting them up there and saying that they sort of represent the people. They're representing the staff, right, which is very, very important. So I guess I want to be a little careful there as well. I'm not, I mean, I think that we should talk about this some more. I'm just not really prepared to vote on it tonight because I don't really know what we're voting on, if that makes any sense at this moment.
It's not an action item, it's just a discussion item.
Okay, I'm sorry. On
It
my
says
script,
action on it, yeah.
yeah, on my script it says it's an action item, so my apologies.
Do we have public comment on this item?
Let me see here. It's a good question.
I can see that there are 2 people who want to comment or questioning If they.
Oh,
can-
yeah. So Maine Ellsburn would like to comment.
Hello, how are you guys? Laverne, I'd like to thank you for bringing this up and your other insights this evening on various board agenda items. This is something that LSEA has been craving for a very long time now, to have conversations with you. Yes, having more mic time is one thing. Yes, adding to a presentation is another. But I think the back and forth dialogue is something that LSEA members would, and I'm sure CSEA members would greatly appreciate. The conversation and feedback and the back and forth is something that we would love this to develop into. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there any more public comment on this?
I think you have one from Sue Beckmeyer.
Oh, Sue, come on down. I wasn't really sure what. So the answer to your question, Sue, is yes, there is public comment on this issue, and you're more than welcome to speak.
I can only do that if I can find my button to unmute myself.
You're good.
You're doing great.
So I would like to echo what Megan Ellsburn just said. I'm not the president of CSEA, but I certainly have experience in that role. And I know from sitting in that chair and from the time that I've spent attending board meetings over the years, I am confident that I can speak for CSEA in saying, yes, we would love the opportunity to have more conversations. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Jonathan Harris next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I would just like to comment, and again, I'd really like to thank Laverne for bringing this up. I think that this would be a situation that could very much help our small district in working out problems in a quick way and just a way that is with less confrontation. But I'd actually like for everyone to, if you can, to look at the model of SFUSD or Jefferson, where they do have a parent rep and in some cases a student rep as well that they can refer to during board meetings. Obviously not a voting board member, but a member of a conversation that can be referred to during any kind of comment or question by the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. So is there more discussion from the board on this or from the public? Okay, well, it is an action item. I'm not so I guess I have to call for a motion. And so do I have a motion to approve this? I'm not really sure what it is though. So that's my problem more than probably other people.
Are we going to table it for more discussion or research?
Well, I would prefer to do that, but
I think it would be best to table it.
Yeah, table it.
okay.
I'd prefer to table it at this point.
Yeah, I think it's unanimous then. So we're gonna continue talking about this.
Can we add it to the next agenda? I guess that's coming up.
That's your perfect segue, Trustee Villalobos. So future agenda items.
One thing I was wondering is, can we add an extra 30 minutes to the closed session next time?
Yes, I'd appreciate that. Since we don't ever get to the superintendent's evaluation, I would appreciate that. So we'll start at 5:30 if everyone can make it.
Okay.
Thank you, Linda.
And let's make sure to get the discussion of LSEA, CSEA participation on the agenda.
Perfect. That will be on the agenda. The other thing is I'd like to check with you about the CSBA governance workshop on September 2nd and 3rd from 4 to 7 p.m. Are the trustees available on that date?
I'm available those days.
I'm available.
I'm just checking right now.
Yeah, can you repeat it? September what?
September 2nd and September 3rd from 4 to 7 p.m. And it would be virtual, obviously.
Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
I'm good.
September 2nd and what?
3rd.
2 days in a row from 4 to 7.
Yes, I'm available.
Great, excellent. I will speak to Lorraine Rivera tomorrow and get in the next steps for that workshop. Thank you very much for that. Also, we have in the hopper is Laverne had a request for the demographic information on our staff and our students, and we will report that to you on the 26th as well.
Thank you. And I just like to say too, that has to do with more work about, race in our district. Is there any way we can put the discussion of LSEA and CSEA more at the top of the
Sure.
agenda instead of the bottom?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other items that people want to get on the agenda?
A lot of discussion tonight. Thank you. Good job.
Okay, yeah, thanks for hanging in there, everybody. We're a bit later than usual, but with that being said, I am going to adjourn this meeting at 9:52 p.m.